Welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right into something truly magical that happens in early childhood education. We are unpacking a highly effective classroom game called Spy the Letter, but honestly, calling it just a game doesn't quite do it justice. What we're really looking at today is a literal masterclass in how to capture a young child's attention and teach them foundational reading skills, all perfectly disguised as a thrilling classroom adventure. We're going to break down exactly how this works and why it's so wildly effective. Okay, let's dive into this, because before we look at the nuts and bolts of the learning outcomes, we have to establish the tone. If you're going to teach young learners, you absolutely have to be ready to embrace the theatrics. You got to be ready to put on your metaphorical or even literal detective glasses. As you'll see, a playful, meta-theatrical tone isn't just about having fun, though for sure that's a big part of it. It's actually a highly calculated strategy to open up a child's receptivity to learning. So let's kick things off with Section 1, Building Phonemic Awareness. Now, beneath all the silliness and mystery of this game, there's a very specific foundational goal driving the entire activity, and that is building phonemic awareness. This is the bedrock of reading, guys. It's the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate individual sounds, or phonemes, in spoken words. The adventure, the mystery, the detective work, it's all just a carefully constructed vehicle to get children making and connecting specific letter sounds. That's the true destination here. Which brings us to Section 2, High Engagement Techniques. So how do we actually get energetic kids to sit and focus on individual letter sounds? Well, we use some brilliant physical acting tactics to create what we call high engagement. We aren't just talking to the kids, we're performing for them. We use a detective voice. We use whispering to draw them in. We look around excitedly to build anticipation. And we use totally exaggerated facial expressions. By adopting these specific behaviors, an educator transforms a standard phonics lesson into an irresistible, immersive environment. It completely turns the learner from a passive listener into an active participant. To see this in action, just imagine leaning in and saying, "Shh, hello, super detectives." Notice how that conspiratorial whisper instantly commands attention? A whisper in a classroom is often way more powerful than a shout. It immediately signals to the kids that they're part of a secret club, on a special mission. It completely hooks them from second one. All right, now that we understand the tactics, it's time for Section 3, the Alphabet Detective Script. Let's see how this all unfolds. First up, let's set the scene. Imagine a bright, toy-filled room. To really bring the alphabet detective to life, we need our essential props. We're talking silly detective glasses, a small magnifying glass, and some mystery letter cards. That's the whole shebang. They're incredibly simple, low-cost items, but they are powerful visual cues. The moment the educator puts on those glasses, the room instantly becomes a landscape of clues waiting to be discovered. So the crucial point is that this highly theatrical game is actually built on a perfectly replicable 4-step educational formula. Here's the anatomy of a single round. Step 1, you reveal the mystery letter. Step 2, you make the sound together. Step 3, you search the room. And Step 4, you identify the object. This structure is just brilliant because it's predictable enough for kids to grasp the rules, but flexible enough to teach literally any letter of the alphabet. Let's break these steps down. Now, what's really interesting here is how the learning objective is isolated before the physical game even begins. The host reveals the letter T, but they don't immediately start looking for an object. First, they ask, "Can you make the t sound with me? T." That's step 2. They're grounding the children in the phonemic sound, actively practicing it before the distraction of the search begins. Once that sound is established in their minds, step 3 kicks in. The search. Imagine looking around the room slowly with that magnifying glass, saying, I'm looking, wait, what is that? And then delivering the clues to build suspense. It's got a tail, it's orange, and it starts with T. You're actively guiding their deductive reasoning, keeping that T sound at the forefront of their minds. And then, step 4, the big reveal. You point to a toy tiger and announce, "It's a tiger! T tiger!" This is exactly where you deploy those exaggerated facial expressions we talked about earlier to celebrate solving the mystery. But notice the language. You don't just say tiger, you say T tiger. Even in the excitement of finding the object, you're fundamentally reinforcing that initial phonemic sound. Let's move right along to Section 4, Solving the Next Mystery. And this brilliantly illustrates the true genius of the framework. Because a great educational game can't just be a one-off trick, right? It has to allow for continuous learning. Round 1 uses the letter T, the T sound, descriptive clues, and ends with a tiger. Round 2 seamlessly takes that exact same proven structure and swaps in the letter B, the B sound, and sets up a search for a completely new object. The predictability makes them feel confident while the changing variable keeps them learning. Look at how lightning fast the game executes this reset. Right after celebrating the tiger, the host holds up a new card and says, "Ready for another one?" This time, the letter is B. Can you make the B sound? There's no downtime. The engagement is kept at an absolute maximum by instantly jumping right back into step 1 and step 2. This entire framework is just a perfect example of how structure and playfulness can combine to make early education highly effective. By using tactics like whispering and magnifying glasses and mapping them onto a rigorous 4-step formula, educators make learning invisible and incredibly fun. The framework is right here waiting for you. The only question left is, once you grab your own detective glasses, what will your next mystery letter be?